Know Thyself is dedicated to the exploration of the most rewarding task an individual can ever embark on, the journey to find oneself. This is the Know Thyself podcast. Excellent. Oh my gosh. Okay, so welcome to the Know Thyself podcast. I'm here with Daniel.
Well, hello.
And I'm Eduardo. Hey man, it's been a long time coming. I know that for all the listeners, thank you for your patience. You know, we have so much to catch up on. We don't have to get into the details of our hiatus just right away. That'll come as this episode unfolds. Daniel, man, it's so good to see you. I have so many things to talk to you about and so much I want to just sort of organize and make sure that I'm staying within a ability to ask the right questions, you know, to get the right answers, because I can be all over the place with what's been going on. But I know that one of the things that the last episode we spoke about in terms of like the return of our hiatus back, I mean, it was like a year ago.
Yeah, it was almost right around that time.
Yeah, so much was happening then. And one of the things that I was just telling Daniel about is even just speaking to people between then and now, how much has changed and how much people are, or how provoked people feel right now is a very interesting transition that I want to like get into with you in terms of what is happening to our, you know, current reality, the current state that we're all in, how we're feeling, how I was feeling. You know, there's been so much with, you know, since I've had my son, all personal stuff that's happened, all good things, by the way, but it's just sort of kind of going inward and giving space for, you know, these radical changes. I feel like that are happening faster than ever. Normally, I would say that uh, in the last like, you know, 38 years of my life, some of these things felt like they were taking a lot longer. You know, it's like you kind of could see something coming up on the horizon, but it was still sort of a distance away. And right now, it just feels like in the last year since before our last episode, that it's just, you know, one after the other after the other. And I feel like that's designed, obviously. And I feel like there's a reason for all of this. But yeah, man, I just can't wait to get into all the things we were talking about prior to this, you know, the numerology, the dawn of a new age, the end of Pisces, and everything else that I know we are going to like slowly get into. But yeah, man, go right ahead. I want to hear what you have to say about, you know, where you've been, because if I'm making sense.
Yeah. And, you know, in very much the theme of Aries, we are all experiencing being pioneers in not only the astrological energy that we find ourselves in, but also the date gematria and the synthetic and natural coding that is happening around us. And that's all something that we're going to go look deeper into in the future. But we are in a highly pressurized system that is making us experience this new force, new energy in a personal, independent way. We have never had a relationship with our spiritual capacity in the way that we are finding ourselves. And it's just the dawn of this experience. It's like light has barely even broken for daybreak in regards to that. And we are in a highly concentrated pressure system that is pushing us to embark on this individualized self-realization journey. This relationship between Neptune and Saturn making their way from the end to the beginning. You know, again, they went from revelations in Pisces to Genesis and Aries. And that's what this is. It's a birthing. And, you know, I don't remember the day I was born, but I don't think it was the most comfortable thing. I think it was highly pressurized. And I think I was forced to go from one place to another. And there was a lot of confusion. I cried. And I probably threw a little bit of a fit. And, you know, it's so interesting. How you do one thing is how you do everything, I guess. But that's where we find ourselves. It's a genesis of beginning. And our last connection in this space with this community between you and I, with Know Thyself, was when we were walking through the door of this transit. And now we find ourselves on the other side of it. Even when I go back and I reflect on that episode, there was so many things about what is going to be presented and what is going to occur in this reality we didn't even have words for. And I am starting to personally feel that in so many different ways and insights and understandings. And yeah, it really is this, it's this dawn, it's this embarkment onto the individualized process. We talked about this transit between with Neptune and Saturn moving into Aries and creating this new stage of like the independent unfoldment of the spiritual process. And when we first like were discussing it, I really thought that the initial transit of these two planets, which was like shortly after our last episode, was going to be the one that we felt the most because they would move into Aries and then they both would go retrograde and go back into Pisces. And then just recently, less than 2 months ago, they both went direct back into Aries. And it really kind of like created this new beginning. And I feel like the amplification of this transit was so much more explosive the second time around. And it would make sense. Like everything is aligned with this like beginning process for Neptune, which is the most mystical spiritual planet, and Saturn, which is the planet of form, of solidification. The whole idea of like a new establishment, a new spiritual establishment that's being created. And so it's all entering Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So it's a number one. Collectively, we're in a 1 year in numerology. So it's a new beginning. In the Chinese zodiac, we're in a fire horse year. And so, yeah, all indicators are kind of connecting that like the barometer that we're feeling is the spiritual construct is speeding up. And our relationship to the spiritual construct is becoming so much more personal than we've ever experienced. And I think that's what's so unique about it. We have a personal relationship with the spiritual energy that we've all been kind of studying, curious about. Like Neptune moving into Aries is something that we've never experienced. You and I have actually never experienced Neptune in a fire sign. Like we haven't been alive since Neptune has been in the element of fire. So that's also kind of combustible and explosive, right, in itself. But kind of like we were talking, the last time Neptune made a transit from Pisces, which is the end, to Aries, which is the beginning, was right around the American Civil War. And so it's also fascinating how collective patterns unfold in these processes. You know, there is a fixed component of the spiritual construct in which we operate, which is like the collective script of like the large events. And then independently, we have this capacity to like operate in a way of choice and free will within this like almost like big large story that's happening over us. And it's our relationship to the story, how we interact with it, that really kind of defines our progress within this spiritual pursuit. So, you know, one, Aries is also personal. It's I am energy. Aries is the beginning of that I am awareness, where the spiritual journey that most of us kind of had the ignition on, and it started our spiritual journey for a lot of the individuals that are like in this community and like you and I, it started in Pisces. Like Pisces was when I had my spiritual awakening. It was when I think you had your spiritual or your deepening of your spiritual awakening. But just like we spoke about on our last podcast, there's no I am energy in Pisces. There's no localization in Pisces. So now we've moved in to the zodiac sign that's completely intimate localization of the spiritual energy. So your spirit, all this electromagnetic energy that's operating within the construct has been like a field of energy around you. And you've studied it, you've experienced it, but it's never become so like localized in like intimate within you like it is now. And that process is unfolding. And that's what we're all experiencing. And we're experiencing as like these deep changes and pressures, but just kind of like what we said, you know, back in the day, like back when we made that podcast, this isn't a new chapter. This is a new book. This is what all of our spiritual like research and like journeying has kind of been setting the table for. the time that we find ourselves in. And it really is. It's going to the spiritual experience for the individuals that are embarking on it is going to become much more dense, much more concentrated, and it's going to call for an, a more independent relationship that each and all of us need to make with that OG energy that is like our true source connection. And so, again, like that's kind of like a little bit of a ramble. I think I'm just so excited to see you and like be back in with the community.
Oh man, I feel the same way. And I don't even think, back to what you were saying though, I don't even think that's a ramble. I can't, and again, this is just me speaking from personal experience in the last year. You nailed so many things that I've felt internally, and I don't know if everybody else who's listening feels the same way. But I almost felt like, not like there was a disconnection between my spiritual journey of, self development and doing a better, I don't want to say job, but a better having more discipline, I suppose, in making space for what I want to learn. How do I want to apply it? I felt like there was no room for that. A lot of time, it just felt like it was application, 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 and I was just kind of moving, and still am moving through it so quickly. But unfortunately, what used to come as ease for me in terms of being a person who likes to, have deep conversations and reach people at that level, one of the resets that I've noticed is that, you know, the trust between the people has gotten so obscured, just so the light has been dimmed so much that the only time I do feel that there's a connection with a person, if metaphorically the lights are so dim, is when they're feeling around in the room to see if there's someone else there. And then when they finally touch your shoulder, they're like, "Oh, there's another person here with me." You're like, "Yeah, I've been here too." And it's good to feel your, touch. How have you been? And so outside of that metaphor, that's just how it's been for me with people, is that it takes, you have to be like in a very close, in a very close space for people to go,
Mhm.
"Wait, am I all wrong about trusting human beings? Because I feel like I can trust you." I'm like, "No, you can trust me, and you can probably trust many fellow beings around you, but we've been sort of separated from that more and more and more. And the individual journey that we're all in does feel isolated, does feel like we're more alone. And, but we're all just kind of doing our own thing, giving each other space. But I think, I don't know when we're going to come back to a place of community. And I don't mean just you and I just mean with other people that I speak to, even just to kind of go back a second, even for all of you who have reached out to me personally about, "Hey, how's Daniel doing?" Or "What are you guys up to? Is the podcast over?" It's never been over, but we needed this space, and Daniel's got his own life and I have my own life, but it's not about, "Oh my gosh, like this guy became a father and this guy's traveling the world." It's, even if we were in the same city, only a few miles away, like I barely got to speak with you, and you were giving me my space for everything I got going on. I'm giving you your space. But it's not until, you know, we finally were able to talk to each other to say, "Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready?" And I love that relationship that we've always had, where it's not this journey that we're both on still with Know Thyself is not about just like cranking out episodes and getting more out of just the more we're putting out there. I think that taking time to really think about what we want to say and how we want to say it for the times that we're in now is what's important to me, because I could ramble all day as I'm doing it right now, but I need to have direction into, well, what comes next? What are you feeling internally? Because this is what I'm feeling internally.
Mhm.
And I just want to be able to find the pattern.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, we are experiencing this thing with when you were speaking about community and in that aspect of like, where do we find it at this point? And when Saturn goes from Pisces to Aries, it completely dissolves all the structure that it previously formulated. So everything, every relationship that you had with any kind of structure in the past demands a new awareness and almost you being actively creating like, what is my new relationship with this? And that's going to be your community. That's going to be your diet. That's going to be your relationship to spirituality. Every relationship needs to be reconfigured and re-examined because you're in this new process. And with Neptune being this like the antenna and the electromagnetic energy that's like the source of all of this, even our energetic relationships to things and connections and energetic like cycles and paths that we formulated through our operation within the construct, even those have dissolved. There's no time like now to create new energetic patterns in your life. Like the example of an individual that say he like comes home every night from his job in a factory, he puts his keys down and then he immediately opens his door and he walks to like the local bar. If he does that enough, there's an energetic wake that's created. It's like an energetic path that almost becomes magnetized to him. So when he puts his keys down, it's almost like he can subconsciously walk and get pulled through that electromagnetic energy that he's created by cutting through space and time. We do this. We do this with so many things. It's happening inside your consciousness currently. Well, when Saturn and Neptune made that transition, all of those got reset. So like all of these new energetic connections have to be re-examined. And one of them is our relationship peer to peer. Like all of those got reconfigured. And it doesn't mean that they're all dissolving. It means, we need to like approach these through like this higher spiritual awareness. It's like everything has a possibility of having an upgrade, and everything that no longer serves you you're going to like resist and feel like it's just going to feel like you're not going to be able to like play a part that you knew you weren't supposed to be. It's really going to call for like authentic connection with everything. If it's not authentic, if it's not really like truly what your individual soul is calling for, it's going to be like a positive magnet trying to go through each other. It's going to repel each other. And so, and when we talk about spiritual transits, like astrology is not good and astrology is not bad. Astrology is neutral. Astrology is just the process of time of these planets or these electromagnetic orbs, like within the program that spin and create this reality. And that energy that they're creating hits at different spots, and like their like proximity to each other within the circuit changes the electromagnetic energy that's available. So when we're kind of thinking about it in that way, it's neutral. And so there's a way to approach it that you can develop yourself, and there's a way that you can approach it that you can imprison yourself. And so while you're even seeing like this combustible energy of like people conflicting each other, and like we're seeing like polarization in a way that we've never seen before, it's like the lower version of Aries. Because like if you put like two sheep, like if you put like a bunch of sheep in like a corral, they'll be like chilling next to each other, and then one will just like bang its head into the other one. It's like this, it's like one of these qualities of like these Aries is like they almost like compete when there's no need to compete. And because there's this dawn of this like spiritual individualization that's unfolding, if you're not directing your awareness to the spiritual unfoldment, it's going to be like ego and matrix identification independence. And it's going to make you like very bold and very combustible to like defend things that are outside of you, whether it's political, whether it's even like sports, whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you're like identifying with that's external, especially the things that are beginning to like really show their cracks and are kind of going through the process of dissolving, like religion and stuff like that. Those individuals that aren't on the spiritual journey are going to not only go down with the ship of these safety boats that are leaking and are actually going down with the larger boat, but they're going to utilize that Aries raw energy to like aggressively stand up for what they believe is like, just rather than like just looking inside and understanding that like the harmonization comes from within and then it moves its way out, rather than trying to, again, like try to fix everything in the external through the ways and patterns that not only doesn't serve this process of Saturn, but never really had any kind of great effect anyways. If you think about it, like that political pendulum of like red to blue, red to blue. Like we spoke about it, and maybe not the last podcast, but the podcast before. We were very blue, like liberal in the United States at that time. And we spoke about it. I was like, watch it. It's going to swing real far to the red next. And what do we find ourselves in? It's like we dance between like communism and fascism in this kind of way. That's like part of the pendulum that was like part of Pisces. It was the two fishes. And there's people that are still holding on to it and they don't want to wake up from the dream because like Pisces is the dream. There's so many people who are still dreaming, thinking that like a politician is going to be the one that like brings them, salvation, or like this religious organization that like kind of like controls and directs my spiritual unfoldment is is the path to follow. Like any kind of aspect of like that non personal awareness of like, oh no, this all comes up to me. Like it's up to me to create my own sovereignty. It's up to me to make a spiritual relationship with the universal life force. That's all like what we all woke up from in Pisces. So we all just woke up earlier than this time cycle. And that's what happens with spirituality. You wake up a little bit earlier, and that's why it's so uncomfortable. Because you wake up from like for us, we all woke up from the dream earlier. And we kind of like saw what is really operating here. And we kind of started to smell the matrix and it smelled like shit. Like we're like, this thing's dying, like it's decaying. And there's so much of like whether it's like what's really happening in Hollywood, what's really happening behind the political scene, who really like operates the show. Everybody else is starting to like wake up to it because Aries is a very alert sign, but there's still going to be the ones that want to stay asleep, and they're gonna fight to stay asleep through that process, right. And so yeah, I think it's like that's this aspect that like networks are going to be reformed in this aspect of community, and you're going to get pulled to the individuals that are, like expressing and unfolding their authentic self in that kind of way. And that's actually going to be the thing that anchors true community, because true community is when a community is made up of all sovereign individuals coming together to protect each and everybody else's sovereignty. Like I don't have to agree with you on this, but I'm going to protect your ability to like pursue what it is you feel is right and what you feel is true, as long as it doesn't, cause harm to anybody. So yeah, it's like a whole new, it's a whole new era. It's a whole new chapter. It's a whole new book, I should say, that we're kind of walking into. And so, yeah, but it's also a lot. Does this resonate? Does this make any sense?
100%. It just, man, it's so good to have these conversations with you again, dude. Oh my God. You make me feel so much better about, again, all the questions that I have and how it feels less scrambled and all over the place. Again, the last year, I've been kind of like trying to keep my head on, but also not keep it down. And one of the things that I was going to say that you just brought up, and this happened to me almost back to back since December, is you said about in every individual, something that resonated with me right now. You said every individual that is on their sovereign path, every sovereign individual that's on their own path will still come together, but with a different goal in mind, let's just say, right? So rather than like, what is your political affiliation or what is your favorite sport team, whatever the heck it is that we're, connecting on, the one time I see people connect again and again, which is, again, goes back to the dawn of time, is the environment itself. And I don't mean just the environment as in like global warming or, I mean, resources that are out there are always going to bring us back, because it's like, well, I can't live and you can't live if we're not regulated in the sense of staying in that, whether it's, from water resources or the weather being warmer. But that's the only time I've ever seen people actually like set everything aside and kind of go back to the old school. And the old school meaning like, how am I going to feed my family, or where am I going to be tonight to, have shelter and protection from, any kind of environmental changes. That's the only time I see people finally sort of connect again, where they're like, hey, I just don't have time for all the noise that's going out there, whether it's a conspiracy about this or whether it's a country that's, falling apart over here or our own country. But I do have to say, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years to some of the resources that keep us alive here. What do you think about that? And then people kind of start to open up conversation again. But I haven't seen that happen in a very long time. I mean, there always used to be like, well, everything else is taken care of. So like, I'm going to fight about, you know, how much money I make, and I'm going to fight about how much, the politician I fall into, or the politics I fall into rather, structure my view in life. And I can sum it up by just telling you that I'm on this political side of the party. All of that has fallen apart, and it's not just fallen apart, but the conversations I'm being pulled into from individuals. This just happened to me in Flagstaff 2 weeks ago. This girl, back to waking up, this girl that we were just talking about work, and she just somehow, I don't know how, but somehow I didn't say anything. I mean, I was literally in work mode. She just was like, can I run something by you? And I said, sure. And we took a really deep dive fast. And when it was over, she kept apologizing. She kept apologizing, saying, I'm so sorry I went into such a rabbit hole. I said, why are you apologizing? And she said, I don't know. I said,
Mm,
no, so I felt like, back to your point of the waking dream, she was
mm,
sort of kind of trying to touch up on something that she's like, am I crazy to say what I'm about to say? And will you entertain what I'm about to say? I said, no, go
mm,
right ahead. And once I
mm,
gave her the open door, I had no idea she was going to go that far. But again,
mm,
it made me feel so much better, because when we were
mm,
done, we felt so bonded. But we've worked together for the last 2 years on and off. And this is someone that's not really like a close colleague, but it's someone that I have to see maybe a couple times a year when I travel for work. And since then, she's just like, you and I, we get each other. And I was like, absolutely. But you'd be surprised how many other people out there also like feel the way you feel. You're just thinking it's just you right now. Maybe it's time you look, outward, and again, back to removing the false teams that you've created in your life for the last, whatever, 30, 40, 50 years, however old this person is, that there are people who are bonded from a deeper, um, connection and perspective that you didn't know existed, or maybe you didn't have your eyes open to that, ever. So anyways, but everything you're saying, it just makes me so excited to hear you say that, because again, I felt so alone in it for the last year. And to make a full circle back to why we haven't done an episode, it's just, it has nothing to do with our friendship, and nothing to do with, you know, um, do we still want to do this? It's about, gaining enough time, if we can even say that, but having enough space and time to, wonder about what's going on with me internally, and then who can I talk to about this with, or have I already spoken about this so much that there's nothing left to be said? Those are the things that made me not nervous, but made me feel like the energy was fractured. It's just like, I don't know when I want to talk to Daniel about where I am in my life right now, and I don't know when he wants to talk to me about where is in his life. I didn't see you for a whole year, like physically. We talked to each other. We would message each other, like, just to make sure, hey, you good? I'm good. But anyways, it's just, as you can tell, I'm just excited. So
so excited, so
it's
excited.
it's just good to hear that you have a pin on it of what I've been trying to. I mean, how am I going to open up this conversation? Like, what transition has happened right now? And
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, it's like I have a pin on the maybe I have like somewhat of a pin on the like the collective barometer of like the pressure system we find ourselves in. But like personally, I haven't been able to find my keys in like 2 days. Like I don't know where they are. You know what I mean? So it's like it's still so funny in that kind of way of like, when you magnify out, sometimes it's like when you're really looking at the macro, sometimes you lose connection with the micro in a bit. And so many things you spoke about there, I want to touch on. And I think a lot of these topics today are kind of planting seeds for deeper introspection with like future episodes. But we do have this responsibility as individuals that are spiritually like been on this journey to be this space holder, and to allow like to bear witness to people as they have this waking up process and just holding space and receiving it, because there's something in your energetic field, there's something in your extended field that was open for her to be able to like bring that and present it to you. It was unconscious, but your aura, which is like your chakra system, is in alignment to where it's sending out a code to your extended field. Like it's not just your chakras and your aura that extends out, right? And it's a code that sends out information and it takes in information. And so all of us are having this code that's kind of like been developing over time. And a lot of this like coding and process is what's been happening in the background for the last year and a half, when everybody's been like, I feel so disassociated. I can't concentrate on anything. I just feel like it's like, it's because your subconscious was like rewiring you. It couldn't have you actively be pursuing these things that you were supposed to be doing. And it was waiting for this place in time to be like, hey, now you move, because you were supposed to kind of rest and settle and observe like everything, that all the past patterns, to see what you wanted to carry in with this lighter load with Aries, because Aries travels light. It likes to move fast. And it was just like, hey, take the things you want to carry and bring them forward. And I think that's really what happened with the podcast. It was listening to time and like feeling it and trusting that process, because it was confusing, because like, I want to be connected. I want to be engaged in this way. And I wasn't planning for 36 and 37 to be a reflection of the spiritual alchemical process that started this whole thing when I was 25. Like I had no idea that I was going to go through a deeper, more extensive alchemical journey than I've ever been on my life. Nothing's ever pushed me to my limits, and nothing's ever dissolved me to my like absolute core. Like I don't even know if I shared this with you, but I lost my entire book collection and I lost all of my notes, all gone, reset.
What?
Right. And so I lost everything. Like it was like it was that whole thing when, and again, we can kind of get to this. I don't want to really like discover it now, but like that whole individual of like having to shut down natal charts because that person was pretending it was us. Well, they started like accepting payments. Right. And so like natal charts had to stop overnight, because I was like, this person's like actually like taking people's credit cards and stuff like that. Right. Because they took it to the next level. Right.
Yeah, we never even addressed that. I forgot to.
I know. Yeah, we never even got to share it. And again, this was like so hard because I was like at the other side of the world and all these things. So yeah, that all shut down overnight, And so yeah, that was like my economic currency. That was my resources, right? That kind of shut down. And so it put in like these limits, and it put in this thing. And, I was so dissolving in the alchemical process that like, I forgot I had a storage unit. And you got paid. And so like everything, like all my materials went away, but it needed to happen because like it needed to take me to a new process, because I would always just go back to my books. I would always just go back to my notes. Like it was like, if I was like, what do I do? Just go to my bookshelf and look at a book that I have highlights in, or go through my old notes and stuff like this. What this forced me to do was to sit with a blank piece of paper and be like, let's see what comes through. And from that, I have a better understanding of spirituality and a better grasp of like how to apply this in a way that is so personal. Like it needed to happen in that kind of way, right? It was like part of this process of like everything had to dissolve in this component. And it was like trusting that process. And it was the same thing with time, because there was multiple times that I even messaged you and I was just like, hey, I'm going to I'm going to make something and like post something on the podcast, just like a quick update on the astrological energy and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, dude, absolutely. Couldn't do it. Like, it was so funny. I couldn't even get past the intro of those. Like I would always get like, this is where it would catch me up. Cause I would be like, hey, like this is Daniel. And I know you guys are like, where's Eduardo? And then I would always just go in a tangent of how you're like my favorite person in the world, that I would like, it was like it couldn't even get the podcast going. And then once I started doing it, it didn't feel right. Like nothing was working. I mean, dude, we couldn't even find, like, we didn't even have the Instagram password for like 7 or 8 months to get onto Instagram, And once we found it, it was just like, of course that's what it is. Like, I feel like we even tried that. It wasn't working. Like, it was so interesting. Even the dissolving of the website, all of it had to kind of go down to like open it up to this like new beginning. But it was trusting the process. Like I trust that that universal life force has my back. And that's the same thing when it comes to resources. It's trusting that you're going to be right where you need to be at the exact right time. And that universal life force does have your back. And that's where we put all of our energy, because what they've been doing is they get us to put our attention to places so we actually manifest these outcomes by these fears. Whether it's resources, whether it's whether it's just like war, whether it's like, oh, you're all racist, or like, whatever it is. Like they could be like, this next week they could be like, we hate porpoises now, and then Anderson Cooper says it, and like a whole political side will be like hating porpoises, and they'll put all their energy to that, right? Like it's like that aspect of where our attention goes. Our attention goes, energy flows. We're realizing that we are the music makers. We're not just watching this scene happen on the stage. We're the actors that are actually energetically influencing it. And so when it comes to like those resources, it's like we're all approaching this aspect of like realizing that within the spiritual construct, this law of thermodynamics, this law of like aspect of like energy needs to be sacrificed, is within this container. But we're not from this container. We were put here to go on this spiritual journey. And so that whole journey of coming back home, it's to go above the spiritual container and connect to the one source that is infinite, that there is no scarcity of. And that's love, that's truth, and that's wisdom. That's connecting to the universal Father. That's connecting to the universal Mother. That's connecting to the source energy that Jesus speaks of. Not so much the energy that's like, cut into the Bible, the Old Testament, that like, demands blood sacrifice and like children and women because like he like, they didn't like honor him in that kind of way. Like the true source of energy does not demand anything in that kind of way. It doesn't demand worship. It just wants you to remember who you are and to reconnect with that source energy. And so this aspect of like where our attention goes is so important because again, it's more individualized now. So like your ability to direct your attention and your energy awareness has like a bigger impact than it did when it was in Pisces, because it was such like a hive thing. Like even if you were independent, like everybody else around you was looking the other way, that it would almost like pull the current and it still would influence it. Now it's very personal. It's very like localized in that kind of way of like where you put attention on is going to have manifesting effects. And so you put your attention on what your destiny is, what your spiritual goal is, and what's going to give you love, truth, and wisdom. And you really want to like step away from like the carnival and the circus, because other than shaking us awake, which is like its true like reason for the Matrix, is actually just to wake you up over time. And as we get to the end of the time cycle, the whole reason for the Matrix, whole reason for the fallen angels, the whole reason for all of this is to become so ridiculous at the end that you have to awake, to be like, this isn't real. And we're getting to that point, and a lot of people are getting to that point, right? But it isn't. It's like a shitty reality TV show, and it's getting like worse every day with what they're like presenting to us. Like, it's like remarkably hysterical. Like, did you see like India's landing on the moon of that satellite?
Yeah.
Minesweeper on like Windows 95 had better graphics than that. It was hysterical. Like it was like, are you serious? And like, again, like everything that's coming up in this, in like what's being presented to us, it's getting harder to be hypnotized because we're out of Pisces. And so I think that like independent direction of like, I'm just going to choose love. And I'm just going to trust that process of like, it's all going to come through. Now, do we need to honor Mother Earth and like treat it with a connection? Yeah. But the best way we can treat Mother Earth is like by our energetic field. That's what's going to heal it the most, not getting caught in to their polarity game. Because even like, if like an environmental group gets created for a real good reason, they're going to infiltrate that and they're going to submerge it. That's what they've always done. Or they will start the environmental group. Like who funds Alex Jones? Like you just like follow that money. It's the same people that Alex Jones calls out. Like they planned opposition is part of the duality game that they're presenting here. And so you don't want to be in the black or white squares, even if you feel like this is the square that's just. You want to be above that board. You want to be like, does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah. 100%, 100%. I mean, again, not to make this more about me here, but the only thing I've had that's been able to help me out, and one of the episodes we will talk about this fatherly love. But one of the most disarming things that, again, perfect timing, right? There are no accidents, and it's exactly how it's supposed to be, is having my son. So when I go on walks, before having my son, let's just say, it doesn't matter. Okay. Before having my son, anywhere I could be, my way of disarming people is with a smile and a wave. And the only reason I do that is
You
to
have a
kind of just
great
let people.
smile. You have a great
The only
smile.
reason I do that is to let people know, like, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. Like, you can trust me. But why, someone else might say, like, well, why do you care what that person thinks? Or I'm like, well, look, I just need people to be reminded that, like, whatever illusion that they're stuck in or whatever they've been told to fear is something that this is more of a suggestion than a fact. But people want to make a suggestion into a fact, right? So if they see something on the news and they're like, these are the people I'm not supposed to be liking right now, they don't often question that. They kind of just go, okay, like my own mother's like that, right? My mom's like, this is what they're saying, and therefore I guess that's what's true. I'm like, whoa, no, 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 no. You have the ability to, like, think about that, you know, deeply and figure out for yourself, like, is that true? Like, is that how people of this class or of this race really are? And my mom's not an ignorant person by any means. She has, a good ability to discern these type of things. But my point I'm trying to make is, like, when I had my son and I would go on walks to the store, it doesn't matter. I have this freedom that I haven't had in a very long time because people are like, oh, that's a dad and that's his son. And there's this connection. So back to love, truth, and wisdom, they're all bundled in that one moment wherever I go when I go with my son. My wife as well, of course. She's an amazing human. But I've noticed that for me as a male, I have struggled, to voice an opinion, even on this podcast, like
Mhm.
we've had criticism before from people, right? I've heard people say to me, and this is in work, the way that I speak can sometimes have a tone of, speaking at a person and not to them. And that's not what I mean, right? I'm just trying to do my job. But whenever I'm with my son, rather than having to even make a gesture like a wave to a neighbor, people come to me. People come to me, they flock to me, they wave to me, they want to express, like, more or less, like, hey, like, my day was kind of real shitty, but I saw you and your son, and you were walking him with his little bicycle, and it just brought such a smile to my face. I just wanted to say that. Sorry, is that weird? And I'm like, no, it's not weird. I'm like, how's it going? I've been living in this neighborhood for the last 7 years, and, like, I yeah, me too, but
Mhm.
I guess I've
Mhm.
just never really paid attention, never saw you. So anyways, the point I'm trying to
Mhm.
make is that that's the only thread that I've had to keep me from falling into this, like you said, this individual path that everybody's on, can feel so isolated and can feel
Mhm.
like there is no community and that you don't
Mhm.
know who to trust and what's
Mhm.
being said. But I feel like it's coming back, right? It's we went through the transition. We're still going through the transition, but I
Mhm.
think there's more of an open mind of where people are turning their head to going, where do I find some kind of solidarity, some kind of peace, some kind of community? And it's with the most basic things that we always speak about, which is, love, truth, and wisdom,
Mhm.
as you're saying. It's a common goal we all need to get back to, but we don't know how to. Um, and maybe I shouldn't say we don't all know how to, but it starts with very basic things. Again, it might just be my example of walking with my son, feeling completely vulnerable and disarmed at a park. I mean, I met a dad the other day at the park. I just took my son to the park, and this dad, just, like, you could tell he wanted to talk to me. But how did we end up connecting? My son ended up talking to his daughter, and then him and I got closer and closer. And before you know it, I felt like I not only had made a friend, but I'm like, "Oh, dude, have we known each other forever?" Like, we were just talking. Like, I saw his shoes, and his shoes were these etnies, and on the side of the shoe, it was completely ripped. And this guy was like my age, right? He's like close to his 40s. And I said, "You
Sign of
doing
a
some kick?"
skater.
Yeah, I'm like, "You doing some kickflips on those?" And he's just like, "Oh." he's like, oh, you could tell. And I was like, oh, Etnies, man, we go way back with that. And before you know it, we were just like talking about, all the things that we grew up in that culture knowing. But it takes time. It takes a lot of time to kind of bring that back to show people that like, hey, I'm on your side. Like I have nothing to prove to you, and I have nothing that I want more for you than to feel secure and loved the way I feel secure and loved. How you're going to find that, I don't know, but I really hope that you can find that, and then you can connect with someone else that feels that way. But you have me right here, right now, telling you that's how I want you to feel with me. Like, I don't want you feeling alone in that. You know what I mean? And it's happened
Yeah.
with arguments too. Like, I'll finish with this. We, every year for the last more than 10 years, I go to Joshua Tree to climb, right? It's like it's Mecca, it's a good time to go climb. And when you're at the crag, at the area of climbing, you're meeting a lot of people that are doing the same thing, right? We're all like there to climb these routes, but there's also their own individual groups, right? So there are their own friends, they're their own people. And I remember back in the day where you could like look at each other and just be like, oh yeah, hey, if you don't mind, I'll do this for you if you do this for me over here. And do you need this or do you need that? And there was a group of climbers that were a lot older than us. And I just had to like break the ice with them. We started talking, and before you know it, we were able to connect. But there was like probably 3 hours where nobody wanted to say anything to each other. And when it would come up, a conversation, it was immediately like met with not tension, but some kind of like, what are you trying to say? Like, okay, I'll give you an example. I had a camera. I was taking pictures. And when I was taking pictures, I actually ended up taking pictures of a guy I don't even know. Right. And so he's over there with his wife. And so I go up to him, but I didn't want to like tap him on the shoulder. I didn't want to interrupt him. I just started showing him my camera because I thought he was going to look at the camera body and see the picture that is him, of a route he just finished. And he just stared at me like, what? And I didn't say anything back. I just pointed down at the camera with no words. And he looked down and goes, what am I looking at? And I was like, oh, that's you. I was taking pictures of my buddy. But then when he was done, I saw you were struggling on this one route and it looked like a hard route. So and he just completely felt disarmed. I mean, his wife was also like, what is this guy doing? Like, why is this guy so close in our bubble? Long story short, they're telling me their entire, path that led them to Joshua Tree, what they did for their careers, of why, how they're almost close to retirement, and then this and then that. And then so but it took a minute. The guy was just like completely had his dukes up. And I'm like, dude, I'm just here to show you I took a picture of you. So anyways, it's been tough. It's like when I tell, my wife, like, where can I go to find that again? Where can I find community? Where can I find, just a common thread and a way to disarm someone about it being, it's okay. Because it feels like it's really hard to do. And again, my own rant, I'm just saying, the only thing that's kept me sane is like having a family, because that's the only, entry point that I have now where people are like, oh, I can trust you. You know what I mean? Like, especially like, oh my God, if I don't have my son, I still kind of carry that aura where I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm out the door. Nice to see you. He starts waving. People are like, that guy is on some serious meds, because like he's just smiling and waving at people. Like, I don't know what that's about. I'm like, oh, damn it. I was like, I can't believe I got to have a 2-year-old with me for people to be like, that's just a happy dad.
Yeah, no. Especially you as a happy dad. That's 10 out of 10. Would do it again. I love that energy. And there's something too, I think, even just like in our archetypal patterning that recognizes that expression from the father when it's presenting that like unconditional forgiveness energy. I think that's, both the mother and the father archetype we all have an intimate connection, not only with our biological birth parents, but with like the true source of like our essence is from where we came and from where we will return, is to that father mother energy. And so, yeah, I think that pulls out this remembering, and like the process of that homecoming, which we're kind of like spiritually on, when that's like amplified and kind of getting, connected with that kind of energy. And, this this time period that we're finding ourselves with like Aries energy, I think so many people are also becoming so much more aware of their sensitivity to other people's energy. Because it's a collective thing that everybody's experiencing. Now it's happening in different parts for each and everybody, but it's definitely on the process of like amplification. It's so tied into this time of this discomfort that individuals are feeling internally, the static, and it can be amplified very, very quickly and become combustible with Aries energy. 1 year, fire horse. We can see even how like the first event that happened over New Year's, even before it became the year of the fire horse, was a big fire. Tragically, that happened in like Northern Europe. You can see even like as we moved closer and we moved into like the 1 year, there's been a lot of like combustible events with like between countries and like warfare and things like this. So it's the weather. There's no avoiding it. I think that because this energy is localizing within Neptune and Saturn inside of us, that capacity to know where you are in time and to know the electromagnetic energy of the day and correspond and like harmonize with it, that is the significance of doing that has raised by like 1,000%, because it's like this individual journey, and time is such a spiritual teacher for this process and for this journey. It can't be ignored. You're going to feel the ramifications of not working with time more. It's like you're going to be either in the wave pool or you're going to be on the lazy river. And so it's like you're going to get punished harder. But if you follow it and like blend into time and become one with time, you're going to feel the harmonization and the flow state more than you've ever felt before. But yeah, the wave pool, it's like when you're going against time and you're not operating in accordance with the weather, it's going to feel overwhelming, and you're going to be like hitting the head with rafts, know that like 30% of that water's pee. Like it's just gross, like not working with time. And that goes with astrology. And that also goes with like the date calculation, the gematria, like adding up the date of like what's the number of that date is so important. And aligning yourself with it, looking at your personal numbers and how they align with like the environmental construct. Like today is different than yesterday, and yesterday is going to be different than tomorrow. It's an electromagnetic dance that you play a role in, and you can either command it like Fantasia when he's got the magic wand, or it can just like completely like overwhelm you like a tidal wave. But it's going to do one or the other. It's like it's this thing that's this calling, and between like the electromagnetic energy of like the astrology and the gematria, that's the only thing that can, I think, give us a pulse of like what we're experiencing and what we're operating through. Because even like, not only are we having these astrological transits that we haven't experienced since like biblical times that are occurring in alignment with eclipses, right? And like almost unfolding with prophecy as it unfolds, we're also having like really interesting date calculations and working with numbers and combinations of numbers that we've never really had to like work with. And every number brings a different kind of thing. Like if the date adds up to like 64, 64 has a lot of factors. It's got a lot of distributors. Like it can be broken down into like 32, 16, 8, there's a lot of factors of it. So when energy is put on a 64 day, it can like distribute the energy within all those factors, and you can like hold energy really well that day. Like that's a day that people aren't going to like snap at you. Like it'd be interesting to go back and look at the day you were climbing, because the day you were climbing could have been like a day that had a lot of prime number days into it, right? And we've had those recently. We've had like one where there was like 5 prime numbers in a row, like in all the date calculation. Prime numbers, they can only be divided by themselves in 1. So they can't store energy. So prime number days are like a champagne bottle that's getting shaken up. It's going to blast off. And they're great for like, like breakthroughs and realizations, gaining new insight, trying new things. It's like, it's a day that pops off, right? And things happen that are different on prime days. Like, but it doesn't mean it's good or bad. Like you could be like on a prime day, you could be walking and find like a $20 bill on the ground, and you're like, oh, rad. But also on a prime day, you could get like mono from your friend's Gatorade. Like it's like, oh, that sucks. Like, it's just like, doesn't happen very often, but like, Arctic freeze, you got mono now. So like you're out of commission, right? Like prime days, like they put in these radical things of like explosion energy. We've had a lot of those back to back in this kind of way. So if you don't know where you are in time and you don't know where that electromagnetic energy is, you're like going outside in a snowstorm with like flip flops and like
Yeah.
like t-shirt. Like you're just not gonna like, not only are you not gonna like be comfortable, you're not gonna be able to catch the tailwind to like assist you on that journey, because every moment in time there's like also an experience that your soul can like do, that it will be in the flow state. And it's like by getting in with time, you're always at the right time doing the right thing. And your production, your attention, your energy will all be met in this deep, deep way. I think it's going to be really fascinating, because I think more and more individuals are going to like tap into that personal relationship with like how they operate through this reality. Really, like Aries with Saturn and Neptune, it's really calling to like activate and utilize these spiritual tools now. Like no longer is this like stuff just like, oh, for like the bookshelf. No longer is like this aspect of like, our mystical philosophy needs to be applied, and it needs to be like instilled inside of us, like up our spinal cord as our backbone. It's not just like our foundation now. Now it's the formula in which we have to operate. And that's going to be in this way of like approaching situations like the one you did, with like love and awareness and being above the situation, so you don't react to it and you don't become part of the pendulum, because that's exactly how it works. Like, when like everything that they like put into the matrix, into the news, is to get a reaction out of you, because that's what generates the matrix, is the pendulum moving. So why they have like two political parties where people are like, oh, they hate, like they're working against each other. No, they're like, the red side's going to say something really stupid, so the blue has a news story that the people that listen to the blue are going to listen to all day and talk about and respond to. And they're like, the red's so stupid. The red's so stupid. Boom. They got their energy for the day. And that's what maintains the false matrix, is the pendulum swing. And that's why, as the matrix is crumbling, as we're at the end of a time cycle, they have to make that pendulum swing so much far apart and so much farther extreme, that they have to like separate everybody in that way. And that's why they're trying to make everybody fight over something. Like even like people fighting over like this thing you hear like in men's circles a lot is like, who's the GOAT of what sport? It's like, who gives a shit? Like, okay, you can have your favorite player, that's great, but like arguing with a 13-year-old kid because he thinks LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, like, what are we do? Like, what are you doing? And like, it's like so funny, because it's this like separation, but it's going to happen on all levels of like things. And again, you could have that conversation. And yeah, and that's actually a interesting thing, because like all that's going to kind of go away too with like Saturn. Like they're kind of celebrating that end of that cycle. That's why they kind of replayed all the same movies and things like this. But like, yeah, it's going to be interesting. These future generations are going to have no relationship to the past like we did. Like we know who like John Wayne is and stuff like that. We know who James Stewart is, even though that wasn't like our era. These kids are not going to, this like new generation that's coming up, they're going to have no connection to that Saturn pattern, which is going to be really freeing and liberating. But yeah, it's going to be like really, really interesting, because they're going to be operating on a completely different paradigm of a foundation, and it's I think it's kind of like how that butterfly wings kind of gets developed. But I digress. I feel like I went on a ramble.
No, dude. Oh my God. It's just so good. It's so good. I love it. And I wish I had more of a structure. So, Daniel and I, when we made the announcement of coming out with new episodes, that's what we've been working on for a long time. I know we've been saying, we have this way of dialing in our conversations based on where we want to, not just go with a topic, but also explore a little deeper into a topic that may be affecting people or maybe not affecting people, or something you might have known about or not known about. But this conversation right now is exactly what I wanted to start off with the first episode back, is that how do we start over? Because we had to start over. I mean, we didn't even make that choice. You said it, and I'm sorry about your book collection. I really am. But
no worries. I think it's hysterical, because like Can you imagine if the person who bid on that storage unit and they opened it up and there's just like the craziest esoteric books and then just boxes and boxes of computer paper notes, not binded or anything, with like both sides written in all different directions and like the craziest notes you could ever find, and then just a bunch of Jesus statues. Like they're probably like, what the hell was this? Like they were probably so confused. And you know what they probably did? Is they probably took all of those books and went to a used book sell store and sold them. So all of those books went back into the system. All of those books went out to get to the people that they were supposed to do. Biggest blessing in my life. Like it honestly was. Like it so was. It's like we're in Aries now. Like we got to move light. The books were the only thing when I would move as a gypsy that I would have to like be aware of, you know? Like light load, you know, it's just canoe and me and like, you know, hopefully a donkey, and we're just going to like load it up. But like those books have been too hard on that donkey's back. So it's like, you know, it, it's like, it connected me to like the one book I had was a red letter Bible. And I just read the red letters, which were the words of Jesus. And it connected me to all of the components of all of these things. It allowed me to like be present with like what's coming through me. And this like aspect of like, oh no, I'm a energetic, you know, like antenna that's picking up this information. And it allowed for this like inner realization of topics that I've never had like as much of a awareness of, you know, as well as like really kind of like develop that inner compass of what is truth and what is not, you know.
Mhm.
And that's really what spirituality, the whole goal is studying spirituality, is to develop that inner truth system so it can be able to deceive what is truth and what is not as your own arbitrator of truth, of like, no, I declare on what's is true to me and what's not. You know, that's what the Bible actually tries to teach you, because the Bible is truth and falsehood mixed together. The Bible is Babel. There's a lot of falsehood in the Bible. There's a lot of bullshit in the Bible. There's a lot of, you know, aspects of like two gods, two sources of energy. One's like the lower source, the inverted source, which could be called the demiurge or Saturn, and one's the true source. It's presented to you in a way that when you read through it, you start to develop like who the true God is and who's the false God. And that's why Jesus says like approach spirituality as a child, because it's really easy when you approach the Bible as a child. You start reading some of the stuff in the Old Testament, and you're like, this guy's a dick. Like, why did he do that? Like to like these people, because like they didn't even know about like, you know, this like how they were living was wrong, and he just like killed them all. You know, it's like so funny. You start like looking at the words of Jesus, you start looking at some of these books in the Old Testament, and you're like, these aren't talking about the same thing. You know, there's a reason why Jesus says my Father so much more than like the God that like demands like, you know, allegiance. And like it's a tool to generate that. So you go through that and you start to connect to like what's the truth and what's the falsehood. And then you go out into the world and you do the same thing. So you're not relying on like authority to be like your truth giver. Because again, like it's kind of the thing that's even happening with like everything that's getting uncovered right now. You know, 3 years ago, I was just the crazy uncle at Thanksgiving when I was talking about like all of the stuff that Hollywood does, and you know all of these things, you know, and like
Now it's a
the
topic
moment,
of
the moment a guy with a suit and you know, a camera on his face and named Anderson Cooper says it, all of a sudden it's real. So you were presented this truth before, but you didn't believe it because like it didn't come from an authority figure. And so it shows that you were presented the evidence and you didn't evaluate it to actually like decide if it was true or not. You just like denied it because it didn't fit what was comfortable to you. And it also went away from like what the group was doing, and you didn't have permission from the group yet to do that. You know, it's like the same thing that happened with like Palestine. Like people were talking about Palestine like in like underground. Everybody's been talking about like helping out Palestine in the situation that they were in. For the longest time, you couldn't even like speak about that when I was a school teacher. It was like a no, 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 and it was like it couldn't be presented on TV or anything. And then the moment that they gave you the green light, they gave you a bracelet on it, everybody started like worrying about Palestine. It's just like, oh, they, you know, you got permission. It's like so funny. Like when it comes to truth, like, you know, you are the arbitrator of truth. And if it's coming from an authority, it's like, it seems like a daddy issue.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's why I mean Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to like start a second. I think I'll save it for the next episode, but that's why I want to stay on track with what you and I speak about.
I like how you were talking about being on track, and then I just took a moment just to go completely off
No, no, no.
track.
I'm saying no. But you are on track because like that's what I want to open a whole. I want to open up a whole bunch of episodes that have to do with everything you're saying, and thankfully, like, and I just want to say this now. It's like I have you not just have these conversations with, but also pin them to something that we can go deep and far above, what is happening in this lower level that, we kind of get stuck and sucked into, even for just an hour. It does wonders for me because, I have a busy life and I don't like that. I didn't mean to have this busy of a life anymore. I tried to disassociate myself from having a great weight, and that's what I thrive for, is to be able to move in a very fun loving way for my family, but also not getting like weighed down by issues that you don't even know how to discuss with your significant other. When I speak to you about this, it's easier to kind of be recentered. And then anything that was bothering me or anything that did have weight to it is something I can just put in the palm of my hand and just blow it away. Just, like I know what they're doing to, stir things up. How do I not become part of the reality TV show that smells like complete shit? So these things you're saying are not completely random or off track. I'm just like so noodled up, I guess, inside about how I want to even approach something. That is it even worth bringing up? Or do I bring it up and see where it goes with Daniel? I want to have this conversation and I don't want to, like, again, take the audience with me. There's some things that are meant to be discussed in private and some things that I want to, speak about openly with you about, to make myself not just feel like I have an ally or a friend, but that everybody else who listens to this knows that
Best friend.
we're your, yeah, we're your ally and best friend, So anyways, man, it's really good to see you. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get the website back up. I'm excited to get there's going to be a lot of things that we have to Daniel and I do all this by ourselves. We've had great people, and you know who you are, help us out with the, things that we've created, from the website to, our social media to how we stay on track. But it's we have to now start over again and do it from scratch. And again, it's not for any nefarious reasons either. Like, nothing bad really happened. I mean, yeah, there was some poopy hackers out there that tried taking over the social media pages or whatever you want to call them, but it's okay. Just like your storage unit, it went back to its own place, and now we can start fresh and lighter. So stay tuned for all of that. Again, it's just the two of us who are putting these things together. Whether it's editing an episode, whether it is doing this recording on a Sunday like this, we have to make space for it. And it's good for me. I hope it's good for you. And I love you, man.
Hey, I love you too, man. It's so great getting connected, and just, that's the this has been such a amazing experience, between you and I and the whole community through this whole
6 years.
process of, like,
6 years.
6 years. That's so crazy. So crazy. Yeah, it's been so amazing, and I'm so excited for everything that's kind of coming. And yeah, we kind of had to step back and be able to, like, recode and develop this into an actual structure. Because again, when this got started, you and I would just, like, it was like we were all grounded during, like, the plague, and we were like, do you want to make a podcast? Like, you asked me, and I was like, yeah, sure, but, like, what's a podcast? Like, we didn't even know. And, like, we how it was kind of, like, structured was, like, what was holding this whole operation together was, like, if you looked at, like, the insides of it, it was like a mouse on a wheel with, like, two strings holding together everything, right? It was just like, what email was that under? It was like, what is this? And, like, so coming back and, like, refortifying it so it can have stability, it can take on more energy of, like, collaboration with others, because that's something that, like, we always get offered, and the most amazing people have reached out, but we didn't have the right energy container set up to be able to create that support. And so that's also what I'm super excited about. And, new aspects of new programs and all of it. So it's I think it's just going to be the cat's pajamas if I had to like really put my finger on it.
Yeah, put the network back online, man.
Let's get it online. Let's get it online. And so, yeah, I love you. You're the best, man. And
Right back at you,
well,
man.
until next time.
Until next time, my friend.